Shri Gurubhyo Namaha and greetings of the day. Being a new year day, January 1st of 2021, the last year has thrown many challenges ahead of us. And I have always wondered, yes, how do we keep ourselves abreast of something what we have been wanting to know? And the taste differs from person to person. And as I browse through the blogs and being in the education field, I thought I should be sharing some of my learnings during my special time of the day. Yes, this is how I sit aside to reflect on something I learned and something I understand better, something I relate to better, something I form a big picture about, and then try to understand, oh, is there so much to learn? And this curiosity is what I would want all of you to be enjoying as you listen to me and as you plunge into knowing deeper into what is being told through this channel across to you. It could be more fascinating for somebody, it could be just a beginning for many like me, but there are always scopes for exploring deeper as it could ignite a little spark in the minds of some educators, some youngster, some adults, and some listeners in their relevant fields. And the terminology that I often come across now is how do we improve upon the computational skills of anybody? Looking into the meaning of the computational skills, I just thought how simple it is made, and we don't have to make elaborate efforts to take a child directly to be seated in front of a computer and teach him coding and start asking him to write algorithms. No. But then is there a way out, simpler than this, which can be inculcated slowly from even as a child is between even as young as 1.5 to 5.5 and even 6.5? Is there a possibility of making him to understand this kind of a thinking to be set as a pattern? Now, computational thinking is not a concept, but it is a pattern of thinking and which already exists in a child all by itself, which we never fail to understand unless and until we start looking into the components of how a learning happens all by itself. So when I had an opportunity to be observing my grandchildren, I thought this computational skill can be applied as young as a child who is 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. Then I started relating the computational components of computational skills to how learning happens even at younger age. So I came across 4 cornerstones for computational skills. One is the decomposition, a breaking down of a larger problem into smaller chunks. Then recognizing a pattern that exists within and among the problems. The third corner of the entire game is about abstraction. Trying to know what really matters and ignoring the other facts and figures that are not relevant to be focused at when you're dealing with a smaller chunk of a problem. And the last one is sitting down to order and then say these are the consequences if I'm going to follow these patterns, these are the consequences if I'm going to arrange these in such a pattern, and this would be the result. This is nothing but writing down the algorithm, and this is what happens towards using the tools when you are taught how to use the tool in a very active manner and not in a passive manner when we are surrounded by digital tools all around us. So the very purpose of me exchanging this idea is to help children to start setting up a pattern of thinking so that when they are surrounded by gadgets and tools, they don't get involved with it passively, like how many of us just use it for Facebook and WhatsApp. No, it's something more than that. When I say an active learning happens and I have to be actively engaged, then there is also a meaning in actively engaging oneself with a tool that is being handed over to him. It could be a mobile, a laptop, or an iPad, or computer screen or whatever it is. So, keeping all this in mind, I was just trying to think what happens if I were to apply this process of decomposition to a child who is just between 4.5, 6.5 years of age. So, I thought, why not give him a problem like, say, they all like attending a birthday party. How would you now decompose or organize for a birthday party of yours or your sister or brother or your friend? What are the things that you will bring into your mind when you want to organize a party? Now you have a brainstorming session or you throw this up as a chat question in the chat box and they start coming down with the options and you help the children to organize and break them into smaller chunks and find out where they really find it difficult to organize in terms of giving a meaningful picture to organize a birthday party. You know how they are able to break down, right from arranging for balloons, right from decoration, right from deciding on what the eatables are going to be, right from designing what kind of dresses they are going to wear and who are the friends they are going to invite. Is it going to be a Zoom invitation? It's going to be an in-person celebration. See, there are so many components of breaking down and every further component needs further planning. And I think children will be amazed to tell you, though not intricately on the steps, but they would enjoy telling you all the necessary components that should be included in creating a birthday party. This is called the decomposition part. Then we come to recognizing a pattern, which is very well seen in many of the worksheets of the younger children. You tell them and show A, B, A, B, A, B and put a dash and you tell them what comes after this. Recognize a pattern that comes after. So when you teach them even shapes like a triangle, circle, triangle, and they recognize what would be the pattern of the shape that comes next. So you can even talk to them about trees and plants and then say what is very common in a tree. They all have a root, they have a trunk, they have branches. So then give them some kind of a collage work and an artwork and ask them to make different types of trees that comes to their mind. So when they bring a collage made and then you tell them that the trunks of different trees are going to be different and some are brown, some are dark brown and some are white. And so probably this will help them to relate and then say yes and trying to find out a common pattern at the same time differences that exist among and within the problem. And this would help them to even solve issues on how trees can stay for a longer duration and how trees can be maintained, how the age of a tree can be calculated. So the learning goes beyond as you take them to more scopes of exploring on why certain barks are big and certain barks are small and what is the use of having the trunk and how it provides an abode for many birds and you can relate as many things as possible according to their age. So when they recognize the pattern, then comes the abstraction. Abstraction at lower ages becomes very easy whenever there is a scope for even literature for that matter. When they get into characterization and then imagining a location, and there is a lot of imaginary abstract things that they have to understand in terms of calling one being very friendly, calling one as being a savior, a superhero, a Spider-Man, with so many cartoon characters coming, and this gives them a scope of finding out abstract things. And this could even happen like some children are made to listen to some dentist as a guest speaker during their class hours when they talk about hygiene. And they could even be involved in a treasure hunt where abstract things are given about the order and the ways of brushing a teeth, and they start scavenging out for such abstract things when they keep listening to a dentist giving a talk, and then they start scavenging out on finding out abstract things of maintaining a dental hygiene. So such clues can be given, such treasure and games can be given to them using the same topic, which would still make them visualize, then get abstract ideas in locating a place and locating in a place where they could find some treasure but related to the learning that is being happening around. So this is all about abstraction, which is very simple at that age, and they enjoy playing a treasure game. Then comes writing down algorithm. This algorithm is already set in a child. Like the child gets up in the morning, you tell the child to brush up the teeth, then have the breakfast. The child gets ready to the school, comes onto the breakfast table, eats the breakfast, getting ready to get into the bus and comes to the school and attends the prayers. The whole lot of sequence of the child goes unconsciously. It is already structured. It is patterned in a child. So you need to tell the child as to what would happen if the child is going to wake up a little late, and then what happens to the pattern, what happens to the algorithm, what happens to the shift if one has to be rearranged in a different way, what will be the consequences. So this is what literally happens when a child is asked to design a pattern, write an algorithm for some kind of a problem solving. So he says, if this order is changed, what will happen? If this order goes above, what will happen? If this order comes below, what will happen? So they start understanding the consequences. So this kind of understanding how the thought process, the computational thinking can be developed even in younger children. When you look at it, it need not necessarily involve spending, investing a lot of money, but infusing all these things very consciously as a teacher or as a mother or as a father. It could happen at any scenario where the children are taught to think this way, and then slowly, as they are pushed to relate things better, perceive things better, understand things better, in the later years, and when they are given all gadgets and tools, and they would really want to explore using the tools in a better way. And many of us don't even go through the manual, but some would still want to dislodge the entire tool, and then they say, okay, let me assemble the different components of the mobile. So let me give a rubric to play. This has happened with my nephew. He would just dismantle the whole thing and find out how the whole thing has to be assembled. He will find out what will happen if I'm going to assemble it in a different way. So all these things would give him a pattern of arranging the sequence of orders that has to be followed to form the dismantle the cube back into the cube. So this kind of a thinking has to be consciously done, as even as a teacher or as a mother, as a father. Somewhere you set this pattern of thinking. Pattern of thinking is what we need to look at these days when we talk about visible thinking routines. It has to be made visible so that any issue is approached and the child gets a bigger tool, and anything that is involved with in doing an action, the child does it in a very engaging fashion. The child is engaged. When the child is engaged with the interest, that is where the learning happens. When the learning happens, there is always a curiosity. When there is a curiosity, there is something more of inventions that is possible. There is creativity that is possible. So I would want you all to keep pondering on this little thought of mine on the New Year day. Yes, keep reciting whatever you learn. It's like 20% read and 80% reciting, or even like auto reciting to yourself. That makes your understanding better. But then if you start applying these things even as an excellent cook in the kitchen, yes, why not? Arranging the things. If you want to cook for a huge party, then you start breaking it down. How do you organize for a party as a mother or as a host? Then you find out as to how the pattern, or you can decorate the house, how you can recognize the whole thing. Then you start having some fun things and abstract things that they can share, and then of course designing how the sequence is going to be, how the order is going to be, in terms of even cooking a beautiful dish for them. How are you going to do that, and how are you going to make them feel? When you say serve with love, that abstract feeling has to be recognized. You have to communicate that unspoken word, that is abstraction at the end of the day. So keep reading to yourselves, keep reciting to yourselves, and as much as possible share your thoughts so that somebody who is interested and fascinated by your recitation takes in a spark and goes beyond in making a change. And we are here only to be called as change makers and reflective practitioners. Have a great year ahead. Wish you all a happy 2021.